Hello, hope you're doing great. This is Mare Pannirajan, your friendly software engineer. And in this video, we're going to talk about how we can make use of conditional statements inside of C++. So we know that a computer program is basically a set of instructions that we give to the computer to execute, right? And each line that you write in your program, right? Each line is an instruction that goes to the computer so that the computer does some kind of an execution. Now, for simple programs such as if you want to accept two inputs from the user and add them, you can just write them as a linear set of instructions, right? So you can just get the first input, first number from the user, the second number from the user, then in the third line you can just add those two numbers, and in the fourth line you can just return the sum of those two numbers. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just like a linear set of instructions, just 4 instructions as a matter of fact. But we know that most of our applications are not that simple. They are a bit more sophisticated than that, right? So what if we want to get two numbers, get the first number and the second number, but then what if we want to give the choice to the user whether they want to add those two numbers or subtract those two numbers? In that case, there is this branching that happens, right? So you get the first number and then you get the second number. In the first two lines, it's still linear, right? There's not, it's still simple. But then after you get those two numbers, you're now asking the user to choose whether they want to add or whether they want to subtract. So let's say if they enter the number 1, that means we have to do addition. So in that case, it's branching. The instructions are branching, right? That means we branch to the left side, at least to my left side, and in the left side we will have the instructions to actually do the addition of those two numbers that were received from the user. But if the user gives input of number 2, that means the user wants to do subtraction. So that means we would be branching to the right side, at least to my right side of the instruction tree, so that we have the instructions to subtract those given two numbers. So this kind of a branching out is very common in most of our computer programs, and this kind of a branching, this kind of a decision making is what makes our computer programs smart in the first place. As a matter of fact, our smartphones, why do we even call these phones smart? I always keep going to the phone as an example for our courses, but this is a very good device to illustrate my point, because this is a smart device. This hardware has got software running on it, and it is able to make decisions. How is it able to make decisions? Just for example, let me illustrate. So this device is switched off, correct? So if I press this button, there's a button on the left side. So if I press it one time, see, it's turning on, and if I press the same button again, see, it turns off. So how did it do that? This is the screen. How did the screen turn on when I pressed the button on the left side one time, and when I pressed it again, it turned off? How did that happen? It's because there's a bit of a logic that has been written inside the software. So if the user gives an input of one time, if he presses this button, that means the screen should light up, and if the user presses the button once again, the screen should turn off. So that's the logic, that's the decision tree that has been written in this device. So not just this device, any smart device, any application that we use, it is smart because of these decision trees that are set up in the program. And if-else statements help us to create these decision trees. So let's look at this in action in our code right now. Okay, so here I just got a basic Visual Studio setup going on here, and so we're just including IO stream just so that we can get inputs from the user and also print it back on the terminal. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a std cout saying enter the first number. So anyway, either we do a simple program where we just add two numbers, or we are going to do a bit more sophisticated program where we give the choice to the user to either add or subtract. We would definitely need to get those two numbers, the first two lines. It's common for both these applications. So let's just get those two numbers. So here I'm just saying enter the first number, and let's just end it with the stdendl so that we get a new line. And let's let's get that input from the user. We'll have an integer number 1. We'll call it number 1. So let's just create all the the variables that we require. So integer number 1 and number 2, we just initialize them to 0 so that they don't have any garbage values up front. We'll take in the input from the user into this num1 variable, and the same thing we'll do for the second number as well. This will be the second number. Now, now we'll just implement the first version, which is a very simple version where we just add two numbers and print it back to the terminal. So what we need to do, since we have these two numbers now, we just need to add them, right? So we'll have, let's say we'll have another variable called answer, or we'll just call it addition, equal to num1 plus num2. All right. So we just need to print it back, right? So we just say cout addition is addition. Okay, and we'll have a new line character at the end. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, let's just build this. Okay, cool. So we got the the output, we got the terminal, and it's asking us to enter the first number. Let's give it maybe the number 10, and the second number, let's give it the number 5. Cool, it worked. Our application worked, right? This is a simple application. It's just a very linear. There's no branching out or nothing happening, nothing fancy happening here. So it's just a, like a very linear application. So you can see it's just a straight line. There's no branching. It's just a straight line. There's no decision making or anything as such happening in this program. It's very simple. Now let's make it smart, or let's make it smarter by giving it the ability to make some decisions. So after we have received these two numbers, we have received these two inputs from the user. Let's then ask the user what they want to do, whether they want to add or whether they want to subtract. So let's just do that over here. So we'll just say press 1 for addition and press 2 for subtraction. This sounds like a customer care option in your phone, but anyway, subtraction. Okay, press 2 for subtraction. All right, now we need to receive that input, right? So we'll just have another variable here called operation choice equal to 0. We'll just initialize to 0 here as well. So that operation choice, we'll just receive that here, stdcin. We'll receive the input to operation choice. Okay, so now based on this operation choice that we have received, right? So if the number is 1, that means we are supposed to do addition. So if the number is 1, we are supposed to do this, and if the number is 2, we are supposed to do subtraction. For that, we need to write the code, right? We need to write the code. So let's first create the if statement, right? So an if statement is pretty straightforward. It's just say, we just need to say if, it's so obvious, right? It's an if statement is, the syntax for an if statement is if. So we just need to write if, and there, we'll just have a bracket where we put the condition. So the condition is operation choice, equal to, double equal to. So here, we are supposed to use a double equal to instead of a single equal to. Like, when we use a variable, when we want to assign some values to a variable, there we use a single equals to symbol. But when we want to compare, especially in a conditional statement, when we want to compare values between two different entities, there we use the double equals to symbol. Okay, so we are doing a comparison. This is called a comparison operator, right? So we are checking if the operation choice equal to 1. If it is equal to 1, what we do is we open a curly brackets and we move this instructions, the instructions that are there for addition and printing the result into this code block, into this code block of the if condition, this first condition. Else we will do as a matter of fact, what we'll do is else is a catch-all. Okay, like if you enter any number other than 1 or 2, you just catch it all. So we'll keep it to the last. And so there is another option that is available for us. So one is if, and the other one is if else. Else if. So the one is if, and the other one is else if. So else if the operation is, else if the operation is 2, operation choice is 2, then what we do, we should do a subtraction, right? So let's move this code here, and we'll change the symbol to subtraction, and we'll change this as well to subtraction, and we'll change the variable name here as well to subtraction. Cool. So let's just use the same variable over here as well, so that we print the result. Cool. So let's see what happens now. And the thing is, then we have that else statement as well, right? So that is a catch-all. That means if the user gives any input other than 1 or 2, we'll just catch it and say kindly enter either 1 or 2, or we can just say invalid input. We can just say invalid input, and they can run the application once again to make the right choice. All right, cool. Our application is now ready. So let's see if this actually works, right? So let's see if there is the branching out happens as we wanted to. So now we have so till here, the first section of our code, it's all very linear, one after the other. But then after this line number 19, we have these 3 branches that are branching out. So one is if the operation choice that was given by the user is 1, so then addition should happen. If the operation choice given by the user is 2, then subtraction should happen. And if the operation choice given by the user is anything other than 1 or 2, then the third choice, which is basically the third branch, invalid input, we need to say that it is an invalid input. So you have this straight linear linear instructions that are happening. And then when this if statement starts in line number 19, from there you get this 3 branches for addition, subtraction, and invalid input. All right, so let's see if this works. So let's just build this program and run it. Okay, cool. So the first number we want to have it as 10, and the second number we want to have it as 5. And okay, cool. So it's asking us for input as to what we wanted to do, whether we wanted to do addition or subtraction. Let's do addition first. Okay, it works. Perfect. So addition works. So let's just try again, and now let's do let's try to do subtraction. Let's see if that so we know that the first branch worked. So let's see if the second branch works. So again, we'll enter 10 and 5, and let's do subtraction this time. 2 for subtraction. Yes, subtraction also works, right? Because 10 minus 5 is 5. Perfect. So let's try the third option as well. So the first branch worked, the second branch also works. Now let's see if the third branching happens as well. So if we give any number that is other than 1 or 2, it should tell us that it is an invalid input. So first of all, let's just enter those 2 numbers. And then it's asking us to press 1 or 2. What we'll do, we'll just press 7. Okay, let's see what happens then. Perfect. So it's saying us invalid input. Cool. So now this branching is happening. So that means this application is smart enough to tell us that if you give it an invalid input, it is saying so this is an invalid input. It's actually expecting 1 and 2. So if else statements are really cool, and it enables us to make our programs smarter, and it basically enables us to give intelligence to our program, and you can even consider it as a entree to artificial intelligence, if you will. Hope this video on if else conditional statements was useful. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'll see you again in another video. Cheers.